Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Boy, do I have an interesting story to tell you today. Earlier this morning, I read my Bible every day. I just randomly opened up and saw this scripture here. Cursed is the one who attacks his neighbor secretly, and all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who takes a bribe to slay an innocent person. I believe maybe both of them have gone on here at my house. That's what gave me the idea for this Facebook post right here called "Neighbors with the Tunnel Entrance?" question mark. And so I did a long story here like I normally do, which is of course backed up with evidence. And then on the bottom I took the paragraphs and I put a proof picture with them, and that way I've done this before, so we can go through here. I'll say this and then I'll show you what I'm talking about and back it up. This is going to be super interesting, and some new information came out today. First, I want to show you the picture. I just, I went to Google Earth. That's a free download. My address, 3802 Fair Circle. And if you go to the historical pictures on Google Earth, then you can go back in time, and that's what I did. This picture here was taken June 16, 2011, about 7 months before the murder attempt, before I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home, okay, in January 2012. So this is what it looked like 7 months before. And so what I'm showing here, I'm pointing out, this is where I was ambushed and shot. That's the location right there inside my home, in that small utility room. I've showed it many times where it's believed the underground home is in the backyard. I was told there were 4 3-bedroom homes, 25 foot deep, each costing over $1 million a piece. A sheriff candidate said our last sheriff, Gary Painter, used to hang out down there. Another woman told me she worked on this project, finished in '87, cost $7.35 million. It was put in by the Bushes. Okay, so that was just some of the many pieces of documented evidence I have backing this up. Besides absolute proof, somebody under my home shot me. Okay, and now remember, this map is about 6 months before I'm ambushed and shot. And what I made a point here in the backyard of the east neighbor's house. It looked like there's a tunnel entrance right there. That white square right there, ground covering, storm cellar doors, whatever. Okay, there's the Midland Home Depot, and basically behind my home's an alley. There's a wall that separates commercial and residential, line of trees, a secluded truck unloading lane in the back of Home Depot. I showed this many times here. If you look here, you can see where the ground was cut. See, the asphalt's a different color right there. It's real clear. The ground was cut. I believe this is where a big ditch was put in, and you take it and it goes right to my house, And I believe the people that are going to the underground parties, such as the 2010 oil show parties that were in the underground homes, were parking in front of Home Depot, going underground somewhere there, and then using this tunnel right here to come over here. And what I'm going to show you here in a minute, a woman comments on this Facebook post and tells me that her son worked at Home Depot, and they would hear kids under the bathroom at Home Depot. I've got a print screen of that. Just got that today. Brand new evidence. And I'm going to show you more about that in a minute. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go down here, and we're just going to go one by one. You take a paragraph and the proof pictures and read the little story. Okay. About a week before I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home, my phone line's cut, I climbed onto my roof to look for a possible tunnel entrance, and I saw something in my east neighbor's backyard. This was hidden from my view when I was in my yard due to a large piece of plywood leaned up against a shed. Okay. After I returned from my home from the hospital, I would often hear and see people standing out there during the night. I felt sure this was one of the tunnel entrances, and I posted about it on Facebook in this backyard. And this is a zoomed up picture that I showed here, and that was what I was talking about right here. It's not a hot tub. If anybody, it's a hot tub. No, it's not a hot tub. That was in the ground. Okay, look more like storm cellar doors. Here was this piece of plywood leaned up against this building. It's still there, been there for over 10 years. From the ground, from my yard, you can't see back there, okay? So it blocks the view conveniently. water well. I pointed it out because there's 2 other properties where I have a water well and the same mortar problem as my house, and I suspect maybe that's where some of them other underground homes are. And then the other point I did here was digging noise heard here, and I pointed right here to the corner. I've got a video and I got a clip or a link to it in this Facebook post of where my dog alerted me to a noise coming from the ground, and I went over and got my camera out, and you could hear digging from under the ground right there, and you can see how close this is. Of course, right here where the arrow's pointing is where it's believed the bunker is, where the underground $1 million underground home, where they're having the oil show party, and where that little girl was murdered at in 2010 that Angie told me about. Okay. That happened because I clicked like. I am now blocked. Okay, that happened today. For 7 days, I got blocked on Facebook. It's a censorship deal. I suspect a lot of things have to do with me trying to expose, these criminals that are behind rigging these homes, and like here where they broke in and tried to murder me inside my home. It looks like it may have been police that did that. This suspected tunnel entrance was about 20 foot away from where it's believed one of the 4 3-bedroom $1 million underground homes is located in my backyard. And that's what I showed up here. I showed you the area, right? But this is my picture that I use all the time. I tell you, hey, go to Google Maps, look at my address, look on the map screen, and you'll see a big bunker in my backyard. You look on the satellite screen and you don't see it. And then I document all these people here that told me that there's underground homes here, okay? That I got a recording of this, a recording of that, a print screen of that, this person said that person said that. All this evidence, proof shows somebody under my home shot me. And then all of a sudden, Google Maps is showing a large building in my backyard that can't be seen from above ground. Obviously, that's one of the underground homes. Obviously, that's where that little girl was murdered at in 2010 that Angie told me about at the oil show party. The remains of a little girl were found outside of Midland in 2013. Around the 2014-2015 timeframe, this suspected tunnel entrance was removed along with the live tree behind Home Depot that sat next to the 2 side-by-side manholes on the other side of the wall. Okay, I showed you the wall. So here, more Google pictures or, map pictures. And this one's dated. This is October 2014. And what I'm showing here is the suspected tunnel entrance is still there on October 2014, and the tree is there because that's another suspected tunnel entrance over there where them 2 side-by-side manholes are. But by April 2016, it's gone. Okay, you can see where the ground there where it's been removed recently in that picture. Where the grass hadn't grown back, and you can see where they took out that live tree. See, there's a tree there. They removed a live tree, and that was another suspected tunnel entrance. I believe that one was more used for the sex trafficking with the truckers. Okay. One of the 2 manhole covers was left off for several years, and I showed a PI of this in 2012. I also sent a picture of this to the Chief of Police Price Robinson after the murder attempt in 2012. And, a Freedom of Information Act could pull that, right? If we had legitimate press that investigated, like an investigative journalist, that's an old term that they did a long time ago. They don't do anymore, the investigative journalism. They could, send in a request and said, did Mr. Webb send you this picture in 2012? And sure enough, I sure did. And that was one that there's 2 side-by-side manholes right next to each other, which is weird. This is right on the other side of the wall. My house is on the other side. But this one had the lid off for a couple years, okay? And I would actually see people, or, I couldn't see through the wall, but I could see their lights, from their cars on, and I could hear their engines, and they would stop right there, and then I could hear the doors and people getting out. Then they drive off, and a few minutes later, I hear somebody in my attic. Obviously, this person right here had a tunnel path back to my home. Of course, concrete was poured there, since 2012, Got that on video, too, It's been obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, capital attempted murder, capital murder, crime after crime after crime after crime after crime. It's lawlessness, what's going on here. In 2016, my dog let me know about something happening underground next to my shed in the backyard. I got my phone out and made a recording of a digging noise coming from the ground. This was only about 10 foot away from that suspected tunnel entrance I showed you in the neighbor's backyard. And this video has been made, caught digging, from 2016, okay? Hey, this buddy, and I'm going to try to see if I get up here. It's right there in that corner. everything, but I do got a little video of it, so there it is. There it is. Here, tuck, here. Tuck. That's coming from under the ground. Okay. Remember, this one's posted in 2016, and that's about 10 foot away where that suspected tunnel entrance is. Actually, in between where it's believed the underground home is in the backyard. Okay. Using Google Maps, I saw that the install date for the suspected tunnel entrance in the neighbor's backyard was sometime between 3/31/08 and 12/5/09. Because see, when they fly a plane over a satellite, they take a picture. It only happens ever so often. So I only have a time frame between, and I'm going to show you that when I click on the picture. Okay, so this is, I know when the plane flew over the satellite right here, it wasn't there. The suspected tunnel entrance was not there in March 2008, but it was there in December 2009. So we know it was put in between this time. Well, what happened during that time? What happened was the previous homeowner, Mike Lawhon, died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and then I bought the house a couple weeks later, okay, after the oil show was over, moved in. I was told it was an accident, and that's a whole nother story, but I believe Mike Lawhon was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth based on evidence found. But I want to show you that. We know when it was suspected tunnel entrance was installed, around the time that Mike Lawhon died in that 2008 oil shows. Okay. And Mike died on 10/12/18, the week before the 2008 oil show. I think that is important since it's believed the underground home in the backyard is where the famous and wild oil show parties were held, and where it's believed a young girl was murdered at in 2010. That was my friend Angie Hurley. I talk about it all the time. I got videos on it. You know, forced prostitution murders, one of them. 2010 oil show party murder, that's another one. This is a collage that I built of different people's statements that I got off Facebook, and I'm just talking about how famous that these oil show parties are. This guy, Chris Reed, you know, it was on Old Midland, and he writes, he says, when I first moved to Midland working for a multi-billion-dollar oil company, I remember hearing talk of huge secret parties, okay? The oil field parties, okay? The oil show parties, okay? And Jessica Hadley tells me, I've been to 2,000 oil field shows. I tell you what, there's more than just that one girl that was murdered or raped because she didn't do whatever they wanted her to do. Okay. And then my friend, the late Victoria McKinney from Hobbs, and she's the one that says, I know somebody that was brutally raped at the show years ago. That was enough for me to stay away. And I don't think this is so much as the show. It is the after-hour parties that are famous after the show closes down at the Coliseum. Okay. It's a convention is what it is for oil industry people, wealthy people. Okay. So, and then she goes on, she no longer lives here, buddy, and moved to Snyder, I believe. The incident was probably 16 years ago or less. I can't recall the details, but like I said, it got my attention. The show has corruption to the core. I've never attended because of the stories I've heard. Some were prostitutes being available for these guys. Some were drugs. Some were violent. As I stated, not a safe place for a lady to put herself. And I believe this is going in, you know, underground, and an underground home, $1 million underground homes. Okay. And then recently, Tisha Ann Wilkinson Brumley says, I've had friends and been involved in these old show parties. They are exactly what you say. They are underground homes. Okay. My sister used to do the old show parties, and I got close to them before she shut that down. Okay. And so it was confirmed, and that's what I believed anyway, because at the time Angie was leaving my home, going to the party, she was there in 5 minutes. It was real clear after the fact that she was driving to Home Depot Park and going underground there, coming back to my home. Okay. And that's where the parties were at. Also with Google Maps, I can see that the suspected tunnel entrance was removed sometime between 10/2/14 and 4/28/16. I suspected a cover-up was going on around that time. And actually, this is Google Earth, not Google Maps. Google Maps is on the internet. Google Earth is a free download. It's an app. And I think I showed you this picture. I did on October 14th, and then showed you here on April 2016 when it's the suspect tunnel entrance gone, and so's the tree that sat next to the two side-by-side manholes. One of them had the lid off for years. It got, you know, the picture got sent to the chief of police right after I'd survived the murder attempt. Okay. Okay, this was the same time frame as when two of the secret police died. Okay, that would be Naylor and Simpson. The mystery Suddenlink cable was disconnected. I recently did a video about that. TV, internet, phone coax goes in the ground, suspected going to the underground home there. It was also the time the city accidentally deleted all the records for underground structures. Remember, Julia drove in from Dallas, Fort Worth, and James Rawls told her, he was giddy and excited to tell her that all the records were destroyed, and he used to work for Home Depot. There's a email I got from her on that. And then the live tree, I already showed you that was removed, that sat next to the two stops. All that stuff happened at the same time. Like, I just did a video called Checklist. It was like, yeah, check. Yeah, all right, now we can get back to murdering little girls at underground parties. Everything's done now, And it's obstructs what I'm saying. Tamper with the evidence, obstruction of justice, And these are serious, violent crimes, These are dangerous criminals. I saw in the police reports where Detective Rosie Rodriguez said she talked to the neighbors who had accused me of slashing their tires. These are the same neighbors with the suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard, okay? And this was right after I'd survived the murder attempt. I was never told about this, so I didn't get to defend myself, okay? I never slashed a tire in my life, and the front of my home was watched by my security cameras. I wondered if that was another made-up lie to smear my name and cover up the crimes at my home, now believed to be multiple murders. Okay, so I want to show you that. This is what I found in the police report here. Rosie Rodriguez. Now remember, she's been caught lying on police report. She's the one that made up the tripwire lie where there's no tripwire in evidence. Nobody else mentions tripwire proof shows I won't even shot my gun. Just blatant. She perjured herself in court. Aggravated felony perjury. She was caught planting my stolen phone behind my nightstand. Do you remember that on one of the pictures? And that was after trying to disable the camera, right? We're not sure if that was actually Rosie that did that, but the secret police, of course, is who did it. Anyways, this message and her narrative, okay? One, she made a big point. Buddy had surgery and his foot was not amputated. And I made a point of that because I'm sure that I felt like she's probably working, trying to get them to cut off my leg, knowing that my leg was evidence in this home invasion, capital attempted murder. It's believed that police were involved in, okay? And so I think that's why she mentioned amputation in the police report, And so then I remember x-rays are fake, absolute proof on that. Anyway, it goes on. I spoke with Buddy Webb's neighbor, the one with the suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard, okay? I told him about suspects. He suspects their teenage sons were digging tunnels from their home to his and stealing his belongings, that she made that up, is what she did. And she took parts of what I said and then tried to make me look bad is what she's doing. She's definitely she's involved in trying to cover up the capital murder attempt on my life, 100% for sure. I was informed that his teenage oldest son parked his vehicle on his property, but next to Buddy Williams' residence in the morning, his car tires were slashed. I was told his son began to park on the other side, and his tires were no longer slashed. They believed it was Buddy. But see, what was left out of here is the front of my home was watched with cameras because of all the crimes being committed against me. If I'd known that, I'd go, well, let's go look at the cameras. Of course, I didn't slash anybody's tires, And then lastly, she personally called and tried to have me omitted for mental here, health hospital, whatever. And I had been cleared by mental health hospital. I'm the victim of a capital crime. I'm the crippled victim. And she closed the case herself. Come to find out, Rosie Rodriguez was a lifelong friend of the ex-wife I'd filed divorce on 5 days earlier. And that ex-wife would have got this paid for in a very special home if my murder had been ruled an accident. Plus an extra $500,000 if Rosie rules this failed murder an accident. And that was because of accidental death insurance, And so I want to hit up on that. Next comment was, I was never told about this, so I didn't get to defend myself. I've never slashed a tire in my life, and the front of my home was watched by security cameras. I wonder if that was another made-up lie to smear my name and cover the crimes of my home. Okay, and what I'm showing, once again, this is from, I got a video on this, when the first secret police show up. 6 years to get them identified. Come to find out, the first one here is a sheriff from a whole nother county in Texas. Very first person to show up after a premeditated capital murder attempt. I just crawled out and left. The second one's Mike Naylor, and he's dead. Isn't that convenient? He's dead, before he even gets identified. And their names are not on the police report, which was illegally withheld for 7 years. On that illegally withheld police report was this, and it time-stamped Lieutenant Dickey being inside my home at 11:05. Okay, he said he was inside my home. Woodward and Naylor were in front of my home at 11:01. Okay, he would never seen in front of my home. All my other doors secured shut. That's how I know Dickie come in from under my home, the now removed trapdoor entrance the ex-wife had already told me about, and from where the evidence shows I was shot from. Remember, multiple people documented saying tunnels, underground homes are here. Maybe Dickie's the shooter. Maybe one of these are the shooter. Could be any of them secret police, but it looks like it might have been some police tried to murder me in my home. And there's a longer story than that, because I was under a burglary. It looked like there was a burglar trapped in my bathroom, and I believe these police were working with the burglars that I had been reporting to them. Okay, and so you can see the irony here. You know what happens when cops go bad, right? This wasn't the only tunnel entrance, as the crimes at my homes have never stopped. The crime ring has conspired together to terrorize me into selling my home. It's a textbook violation of the Hobbs Act, but it's as if we no longer have any laws. Criminals are being allowed to break into homes, steal, and kill, and no huge amount of evidence is doing anything, and it's happening all over the nation. And what I did on this meme that I added was the text messages from Paul with Homeland Security, and this date was July 2nd, 2019. That's when I went over to Home Depot and I showed them where I believe the human trafficking murder tunnel was at. 2 weeks later, concrete's poured. On this that night, I texted Paul, and then he'll meet me at Home Depot, etc. And then here we're having a conversation about him asking me, because when I got there, he says, "I don't know why you don't sell that house if you're living under the threat of death." And then it was real clear to me that he was working with the criminals that I'm reporting, criminals believed to be connected to multiple capital murders, including that little girl Angie told me about in 2010, the murder of the previous owner in 2008, and then the capital attempted murder on my life. And this is why I turned in this DHS agent to the feds, to the U.S. Inspector General, and I describe this is just absolute lawlessness is what's going on. They're just breaking into one home and another home, and they're killing people. Okay. This guy, he tags a Vargas. My next door neighbor's name's Vargas. That's kind of interesting. And it's much bigger than just my home, as homes all over Midland, Odessa, and many other states are now documented reporting people in the attic. I was ambushed and shot. Burglar alarm is going to my attic. I suspect that most of the other homes are rigged with tunnels coming from a nearby neighbor's home. And I played this. I'm not going to play the whole thing again.
316 Geneva, caller stating that he heard someone in the attic.
And that whole video is one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And they're all Midland, Odessa. One of them's in Carlsbad, New Mexico, whole nother state. It was on the news. I got it. I mean, this is going on all over the place, And City of Midland, says nobody's ever reported somebody in the attic, literally. In 2002, my daughter noticed light was on in the attic of my Hobbs home at 7611 Rolling Meadows, Hobbs, New Mexico, but I hadn't been up there. I now believe that home was rigged with hidden underground access too. It was built by my first in-laws, the Callaways, and they used to live in the house next to it. Okay, and so freaking attic is that story. And I'm not going to play it, but it was the ex-wife. Actually, I suspected the ex-wife who got in that attic, but then I asked her in 2018, I said, "I know you were in my house. Did you get in the attic?" And she wrote back, "Now to get in your freaking attic." And that sounded like Cindy. She's no longer alive, but that sounded like her. And then I thought, well, she didn't get in the freaking attic. Somebody else got in the freaking attic. That means that home over in Hobbs was rigged, and that home was built by my first in-laws. And I'm suspecting maybe they know something about my home in Hobbs being rigged, and that means they know something about this one in Midland being rigged. Okay, here's where I got real interested. My son at Home Depot and his co-workers heard kids underneath the bathroom floor. I'm like, oh, take a print screen of that real quick, and send that one over to the sheriff, and see if he's going to do anything about these murders. And so anyway, I wrote it back. I said, that is very interesting, Flo. I think the bathrooms are very close to where the suspected tunnel is located that was used for the oil show parties and carry that dead girl out. One friend told me his friend told him that it was dangerous to talk about the basement under Home Depot. This is a older private message right here, and I've always left this guy anonymous, because these are dangerous criminals, and we're talking here, and he says, I mentioned a basement being under Midland Home Depot to a girl I know. Her first response was, how do you know this? Be careful who you're telling this to and how that's dangerous. You need to be careful who you're talking to about that. So I know she knows, okay? And so, I mean, it's not the only person that said there's a basement under the Midland Home Depot, and I'm believing that's connected to that tunnel, maybe filled with concrete now, but that was coming to my house used for oil show parties, and I got a feeling it was used to carry. That's where that girl that died, Angie, told me about. I bet she went in that tunnel. Maybe DNA evidence is in that tunnel right there. I think we need to excavate that tunnel. I have a playlist and do some investigation. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel called Attic Investigations, and I look at the neighbors' victims' homes, as I suspect that is where a tunnel entrance is located. It just makes sense. Okay? What I'm saying is all these other people I've documented, right? I suspect that most all of them homes are connected, are rigged pretty much the same way. There's a tunnel coming from the from a neighbor's house. So I've got Attic Investigations as a playlist, what I want to show you here. And there's a whole list of videos in here. Actually, 9 videos. Okay, people in the attic investigation for 4 Odessa homes, the Carlsbad home, the Hickory Street. Every one of them are a separate video, okay? And so I'm showing you that each one of them, I'm looking at the next door neighbors of each of these houses, because I figure that there's a tunnel going from one or more of the neighbor's house over to the victim's house, okay? So here I'm just show you here Dartmouth, Attic Investigation 2005 Dartmouth. What's interesting about this one here, I'm doing the same research. I'm looking at who the neighbors are, and I'm looking because I look at the deed history and when this person moved in, and I'm trying to figure out if I find a pattern, because that's why I'm thinking it's rigged. But anyway, I'm looking at this one at Dartmouth. The next door neighbor to the victim's home was named Lloyd, and the more I looked, that looked like the parents of Curtis Lloyd, the guy that found the remains of Haley Dunn outside of Scurry County 2 days after I wrote the Department of Justice and suggested that somebody look in the underground homes and tunnels here. Okay, I've long suspected Curtis Lloyd was somehow chosen to go out there and find them remains, because you got almost a dozen people saying she was killed over in Odessa and buried several places over there as well. And I thought that was interesting. Curtis Lloyd looks like he might have grown up in one of these homes that had a tunnel entrance in it, But I wonder if he knows that. Wonder if that's true or not. It's just what if. I just thought it was very, very interesting looking at the neighbors. Okay. In October 2020, I recorded this same neighbor harassing me while I was in my backyard minding my own business. And I was out there fixing to make another video, and he starts yelling over the fence. I remember back when I first told him that somebody was getting into my attic, and that's when we were still talking. And he says, that's what professional burglars do, And I was like, I've never even heard of anybody getting in the attic, And it was almost with pride, On another day, he told me, the last 4 people living in your home didn't live there long, and he laughed, And I look back at that, and I think that ain't funny at all. The last one is dead, and I crawled out on my hands and knees, or I would be dead, And I was told the last homeowner was telling his friends about somebody breaking into the home before he died. I have a video called "Harassed by the Neighbor," and I'm not going to play the whole thing. It just take too long, but you can go look it up right here. That's where it is. I'm back here, and I'm just going to skip that. Okay, and here we're going to close this out. This is where I think a tunnel may have been located at my Hobbs home. My neighbor noticed a light on in the attic in 2002. I'd been up there, already told that story. Cindy told me that before she died, that she didn't get up into the freaking attic. I made a video of that. And that's another interesting, man. The people that have died, it's just incredible, And always natural causes and accidents, and, just suspicious timing. Young people. And so anyway, this is Google Maps of my Hobbs home, okay? So this is the one I lived in there for 16 years, raised family in there. And I got a video on this talking about this. I moved there in 92, and actually it was Tammy Calloway, my son's mother is the one that helped me find that house. Okay, her parents used to live in this home, and they built both them homes. Okay, and so I used to pick up Josh here at this home, way before I moved in here. And so then I moved in here, and one thing I heard people say, "Oh, he thinks they thought the same thing at the other house," and actually that wasn't the truth. I didn't, actually I didn't. I had no idea that this was going on all over the place, or had suspected it was going on in my other home. But then the more I thought about it, I thought it was going on in that other home, because in 2002 my daughter noticed a light on in the attic, and wasn't on the week before. I was 100% positive of it, and I had blown it off because I thought Cindy got up there. We were going through a divorce, and so I just felt like Cindy got up there. But then after I figured out all these other homes are rigged, then and then asked Cindy, and she's, I didn't get in the freaking attic, And see, the other thing is, my dad, after I survived the murder attempt, married Ann Calloway. That's who built these two homes right there. And then Dad quit talking to me last 3 years of his life right there. Yeah, I think that Hobbs home was rigged too. Anyways, I thought y'all would find this new evidence interesting. This buddy, talk to you later.